Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, home of all things stock, investment, and personal finance related. Now for today's video, we're going to be taking a look at another Canadian-based crypto miner. Today we're going to be talking about Bitfarms Ltd. I'm super excited to talk about this company. They've had a massive week, you guys. They've got a lot of growth planned in the next couple of years here, and I think this is one that definitely belongs on your watch list if you're looking for exposure to this industry. Now, before we get into it today, guys, please take a second, hit the like button. It's a huge help to both myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to do so. And let me know in the comment section below if you're currently holding shares of Bitfarms and how you think this miner stacks up to some of the others that we've talked about on the channel, like Hut 8 and Hive blockchain technology. Now, without further ado, let's get into today's video. Okay guys, so that's right. For today's video, we're going to be covering another Canadian crypto miner, specifically Bitcoin. The company name is Bitfarms Ltd. Trades under the ticker symbol BITF on the Toronto Venture Exchange and under the same ticker on the US side of things on the NASDAQ exchange. Now, as you guys are probably aware, Bitcoin and crypto has been on a major bull run over the last couple of months here, you guys. This one is benefiting in a huge way, obviously from the underlying price of Bitcoin. But Bitfarms also has some major expansion plans outside of North America that we're going to cover in today's video. Now you can see here, this is as of close on Tuesday, November 2nd, and Bitfarms was actually up just under 16% on the day, so $1.08 Canadian, to close out at $7.95. Now based on that close, you guys, we're looking at a market cap here just north of $1.3 billion, so definitely a little bit smaller than some of the other companies we've talked about on the channel, like Hut 8 Mining, for example. And you can actually see both of the other companies we've covered, Hut 8 Mining and Hive Blockchain, down here in the lower right on my watch list. Huge day for both of those as well. Hut 8 was up 10%, Hive was up just about 15%. So all of these miners, again, are benefiting in a huge way from the underlying asset, which obviously in this case is Bitcoin. And that's why I'm so happy to be covering a variety of these type of companies on the channel to give people options who are looking to invest in this type of industry, but maybe not hold the actual Bitcoin asset itself. Now, I'll be honest with you, Bitfarms was not on my radar. This was brought to me by one of my subscribers. So somebody had commented in one of the Hut 8 videos that they were also a big holder of Bitfarms Ltd. And that's what got me interested and started my exploration into this company. Now, if we pull up a 6-month chart on this stock, you guys, what's really interesting with Bitfarms, unlike the others, so Hut 8 and Hive, this company has essentially traded flat over the last 6 months. So aside from today's big move here of 15–16%, this company was trading right around $6.50, which is actually exactly where it was back at the start of May. And for that reason, I definitely think Bitfarms is worth a look. They have been ramping up production. They're ramping up the number of sites they have. They're building out a number of new locations. And I think this one is really going to start to come online. They don't hold as much Bitcoin in reserve as Hut 8 does. We're going to talk about the reserve holdings later in today's presentation. But this one is definitely an up-and-comer that I would keep your eyes on over the next couple of quarters. Now, if we jump over to the company website here, you can see in terms of their operations, Bitfarms operates one of the largest cryptocurrency mining operations in North America. We're going to talk about their multiple locations in a couple of seconds here. Now, in terms of vertical integration here, you guys, this is a little bit unique to this company in terms of their electricity generation. So Bitfarms continues to achieve strong returns on invested capital through an emphasis on industrial scale operational efficiencies and cost-effective infrastructure build-out through its 100% owned electrical contractor, Volta Electrique. So not only do they have their 100% owned computing infrastructure, you can see here in the middle, they've got on-site monitoring and repair lab to actually fix or repair these GPUs. They've got the clean and renewable energy access because they're based here in Canada in the province of Quebec. But what's super interesting here, you guys, is they've actually got that 100% wholly owned electrical contractor within their organization. And that is a little bit unique to this company compared to some of the others that we've talked about previously on the channel. And that's exactly what you see here if you scroll down. On-staff electricians provide cost-effective and timely build-outs for all of their electrical needs at these facilities. Now, as we've talked about on the channel here before you guys, there's two main inputs in the crypto mining industry. Number one is the computers or the GPUs themselves. The second big one is actually the electricity or the energy to power those computers. And Bitfarms appears to have a very strong handle on both of these inputs, which really allows them to keep costs down and to maximize their margins on each and every Bitcoin that's farmed. And we're going to talk about their margins a little bit later in today's presentation. So to kick things off here, we're going to jump into the investor presentation. I wanted to talk about a couple of key metrics with this company because you'll see they really are going through a growth phase or a transformational phase in their organization. And what I mean by that, you guys, is the number of farms under construction. So you can see as of October 31st, so very recently here, 5 farms up and operational, the same number they had back in December of 2020. But the big change we've seen here is the number of farms under construction. So they're now building out 4 new farms or Bitcoin mining locations compared to only 1 that they had under construction back in December. Now, in terms of their build capacity or their megawatts, so this actually measures the amount of electricity or energy that are going into these locations. They've got 82 megawatts up and operational at their current existing 5 sites. That's huge, you guys. I was talking to an electrician over the weekend here. Megawatts is a massive unit of electricity, and the fact that they're closing in on triple digits is just astonishing. And what's even more impressive is if you look down at the capacity in construction, so this is talking about the farms that are currently being built, that's an additional 288 megawatts that's going to be coming online. So absolutely massive potential here for Bitfarms, you guys. Now the hash rate, that's the computing power. That's as of November 1st, 1.8 exahash per second, compared to, again, back in December, 1.0 exahash per second. So they've made considerable improvements there. Their energy cost per kilowatt hour is 4 cents. These are expressed in US dollars here, you guys. So very low energy costs going into these facilities. Now, in terms of Bitcoin held in reserve, they've actually got just over 2,600. So not quite what we saw with Hut 8, who's nearing the 5,000 Bitcoin mark, but still a very impressive and sizable holding. And they actually express the value of that Bitcoin here in US dollars, so $160 million US. Now, if you multiply that out by $80,000 Canadian per Bitcoin, I'm getting a total of about $212 million in terms of what Bitfarms holds in reserve. So a massive piece of their market cap, you guys, is actually held in Bitcoin reserve, which again is great to see as a potential investor in this company. Now, the final thing I'll mention on this page, we're going to talk about this in more detail. There's actually a great graph towards the end of the presentation, is just the revenue capacity over a 3-month period. So at the end of June of this summer, you can see they were bringing in just under $37 million in revenue over the quarter or 3-month period, compared to only $7.5 million in June of 2020. And the last point here is about their gross mining expenses or their cost per Bitcoin. Keep in mind, again, this is in US dollars, but they're mining each and every one of these Bitcoin for an average cost of about $9,000 US, meaning there's massive upside, and that's really what's driving those impressive margins that we're going to talk about later in the presentation. Now, the next slide here really talks about 6 of the main reasons you may want to invest in Bitfarms. Some of these are unique to this company, you guys. Some of them are consistent among all the miners that we've talked about on the channel. So it really is a choice at the end of the day, which one of the group you think is going to perform the best over the long run. For the most part, the people I've seen in the comments and questions section are deciding to split up the risk and invest in a handful of these miners to really achieve 2 goals. And number 1, again, is manage or spread out that risk. The second one is capitalize on some of the ways these companies have differentiated themselves. Hive, for example, has operations outside of North America, so if you want some exposure there. Hut 8 has that large Bitcoin reserve. Bitfarms has this massive growth map ahead of them. So there really are some intricacies here, and if you invest in a couple or a handful within the basket, you're going to be well positioned to take advantage of any one of these trends as they start to materialize. So first off, for Bitfarms on the left here, you can see this is a Bitcoin mining company or pure play focused on growing their hash rate. That's what we just talked about on the last slide with those expansion plans or sites under construction. They're a decentralized self-miner, which means they don't have to pay any of those third-party hosting fees or costs associated with companies maybe that don't have that full level of vertical integration. They're also spreading out their risk on a geographic and political basis. We've seen governments across the world start to get involved with cryptocurrency, so we're going to talk about that as it relates to their site expansions outside of North America. They've got a huge market opportunity. Obviously, any of the miners in this space or anyone invested in cryptocurrencies sees this opportunity, you guys. This is really the way the world is going in terms of how we handle money. And as we're starting to see again across North America here, there's an increasing appetite for these type of investments, which is again increasing the access or growth of capital that's flowing into this industry. They've got scale and expertise, so they've already built out 5 farms that are up and operational. They've been in operation for 4 years, which means they've acquired a lot of design and technical knowledge along the way, and they're currently powering about 1% of the total worldwide Bitcoin network, which creates leverage in the mining pool. So a lot of these type of operations, you guys, there really are some economies of scale here, and that's why it's hard for people to set up individual mining operations in their house or apartment. You want to be invested in one of the big players because of those synergies that they start to see with scale. They've got the vertical integration, which we talked about in more detail in that initial slide. That increases the speed of development with the electrical engineering subsidiary. It reduces the amount of downtime, and they've got the authorized in-house repair of their GPUs. They're a low-cost producer, so again, we're seeing this with a lot of these Canadian producers. They've got secure access to long-term, low-cost energy in the form of multi-year contracts. And again, they're able to produce Bitcoin at an average price of $9,000 in terms of their direct input costs, which means there's tons of upside given the current price of Bitcoin, which is hovering right around $80,000. And keep in mind that production cost of $9,000 is in US dollars, but still massive upside and huge margins in this type of industry. And then finally is the entrepreneurial team, which has a really deep or impressive background and history in data centers, technology, finance, and business growth, really bringing together a powerhouse of people that know exactly how to build and scale this type of business. Now this slide here really starts to talk about the vertical integration, and I wanted to include it in the presentation because it gives a great look or some photos at each and every one of these 5 locations that are currently up and operational. Now again, these are all located here in Canada. We're going to talk about their international expansion plans next up in the presentation. So you can see they've got an operation in Cowansville, St. Hyacinthe, Farnham, Magog, and Sherbrooke. So if you live out east in Canada, Ontario, Quebec, you may be familiar with some of these locations. But again, super impressive. And to my earlier point about scale, you can see the number of computers or GPUs at each one of these locations, you guys. These are not small scale operations by any means. These are industrial size, professional operations. They know how to make money, they know how to farm Bitcoin, and that's why you're getting those operational efficiencies that we referred to earlier on. Now this slide here is really where it gets exciting if you're invested or looking to invest in Bitfarms. So on the right, you can see the graph here. It talks about their megawatt capacity. So again, this is the amount of power going into these facilities. So you can see the 5 currently in operation in these various shades of green. Right now combined, they're pulling just under 100 megawatt capacity. But the last line here, this is 2022 expected, you guys. You can see the addition of Paraguay and Argentina coming online. So an additional 10 megawatts in Paraguay and an impressive or massive 210 megawatts coming online in Argentina. Now on the left here, it shows a little bit of the company's history. So 2016, they actually started mining Bitcoin in one of the founders' garages. In 2017, they opened up their first facility under the Bitfarms Ltd banner here in Canada. And then November 2021, 5 farms operational, again 82 megawatt capacity with 4 farms under construction for an additional 288 megs, giving a combined total here, you guys, next year, 2022, of 370 megawatt capacity combined across all of their operations. So absolutely massive growth trajectory here. You can see exponential growth in terms of their capacity, and obviously hash rate and the actual amount of Bitcoins that they're able to mine follows suit. And that's exactly what we see on this slide here. So again, very similar graph here, except instead of megawatt capacity, we're measuring hash rate. You can see their growth over the last couple of quarters here. So they were under 1,000 petahash per second. Again, that's a way of measuring computing speed at these locations. Up until June of 2021, that's when they broke through. They hit almost 1,500 petahash per second. October 31st, they're sitting at 1,800 petahash per second. That's actual production. Now, March of next year, they're targeting to be up to 3,000 petahash. And again, by December of 2022, once all of those other operations in Paraguay and Argentina are in full production, Bitfarms expects to have 8,000 petahash per second of computing capacity. So again, exponential growth here, you guys. And that's a direct result of that build out or those additional sites we're seeing in South America. And you can see they also mention Europe here in the notes as well. So this slide actually does a double click on their international operations. So you can see here Paraguay, the 10 megawatt capacity under construction, initial production expected in December of this year. So actually coming online next month. And in terms of the Argentina operation, that one's going to be about a year later. So final phase expected by December 31st of next year. So 2022, they're going to have 4 data centers, again, 210 megawatt capacity. They're going to have a dedicated or separate electrical grid. However, they are going to be located within the gates of a privately owned power company in the country. They have concurrent construction of the 4 data centers, and they're located in a rural county, which allows them to take advantage of this oversupply of electricity and base their operations within, again, this private power company's facility that would otherwise be sitting idle. And between these 2 projects or locations, that's what's allowing Bitfarms to over double or 2x their capacity by December of next year. So now that we've talked about Bitfarms' various locations, their up and coming projects, and their increasing hash rate or potential mining capacity, I wanted to take a second here and just focus on the actual energy input that's going in to these various locations, because again, this is the #1 biggest cost for any of these mining type of companies. So you can see again that $9,000 per Bitcoin average direct cost production in Q2 of this year. The biggest piece of that, you guys, is energy. So within Canada here, they're averaging about 4 cents per kilowatt. These are open-ended contracts, meaning they have no expiration date, and they're really harnessing green or hydroelectric power from Hydro-Quebec. So they've got no exposure to natural gas or oil price fluctuations like you'd see out west here in Canada. Now, where things get even more impressive, you guys, is in the international expansion opportunity. So as we mentioned, in Argentina, they're taking advantage of oversupply or an idle facility. So they're getting on average 2.2 cents per kilowatt on a total 8-year contract. And again, that's from a private energy company using locally sourced natural gas. In Paraguay, kind of the midpoint between the two, 3.6 cents per kilowatt. It's a 5-year contract, and they're using green hydropower. So a lot of their electricity or input within Bitfarms is actually coming from hydroelectricity, which is great for the environment. And again, that was one of the big sticking points we saw with a lot of these crypto mining companies, was the big negative impact they were having on greenhouse gas emissions or overall energy consumption. So to close things off here, you guys, I wanted to spend some time on this slide. There's a lot to unpack here, but I think this truly does give a very clear picture of why Bitfarms is such an attractive or lucrative investment. So this graph here shows their coin mining and their mining margins over the last couple of quarters here. So you can see Q3 of 2019 all the way to Q2 of 2021. Now the yellow line up top here is the actual daily Bitcoin production. So you can see they peaked out at 13.3 in Q4 of 2019. They fell off a little bit as we saw that Bitcoin halving event. And if you aren't familiar with Bitcoin halving, I would definitely recommend you take a look. I think the next one's scheduled for about 2024. This is essentially where the algorithm gets progressively harder and the reward or the number of Bitcoin that you receive for solving one of these problems is cut in half. So that caused a big drop off there. That's definitely one thing to be aware of as you're starting to look out into 2023, 2024. But since they hit that low of 5.8 Bitcoin per day in Q3 of 2022, they've been on a nice incline here, and they're now averaging about 8.2 Bitcoin per day. So a little bit under what we saw with HUD 8, but still very impressive, you guys. Keep in mind, $80,000 Canadian Bitcoin multiplied out by 8.2 Bitcoin a day is $656,000 of revenue or value that's being generated each and every day. So huge, mind-boggling numbers here, you guys. Now below the yellow line, there's two different bars that are being shown or represented on the bar graph here. So in green is daily revenue. Now this is in US dollars here, so they're showing daily revenue of $384,000 US. Now keep in mind that's not based on today's Bitcoin rate, you guys. That's going to be a moving average, so we're not calculating based on that $80,000 Canadian Bitcoin rate, but still massive number here, just about $400,000 US each and every day in revenue. And the blue chart or column actually shows the amount of that revenue that they're retaining, or their overall gross mining margin. So out of that 384,000, they're actually retaining 330,000 of it after their input costs, which again primarily are electricity. So very strong margins, and that's exactly what you see on the left-hand side, you guys, here. So their average daily gross mining margin as of December 2020 was 62%. That's improved tremendously in 2021 here, you guys. So we're now up to 77% in terms of their gross mining margin as of June 2021. And you can see in the chart below, in select months like February, March, and April of this year, 2021, their actual mining margin percentage was up above 80%. So I don't know any other business or any other industry that even comes close to these type of gross margins, you guys. And that's exactly why I'm so excited about Bitfarms, Hut 8, or Hive as potential investments within my portfolio. And I've said this in some of my other videos, but these guys are actually printing money here. And I think based on the long-term trends that I'm seeing in cryptocurrency, the price of Bitcoin has nowhere to go but up over the next 5, 10, 15 years. It's capped at 21 million Bitcoin. As we all know, with supply and demand, the lower the supply, the higher the demand. And as demand goes up, so does price. So I'm super excited about Bitfarms, you guys. I currently do not have a position in this company. I do hold Hut 8. I do not hold any Hive at this point in time. I definitely think this one belongs on your watch list. Take a look into this company, you guys. They've got massive growth. They've got a number of locations up and operational. They're expanding their daily Bitcoin production, their hash rate, their megawatt capacity. I think there's a lot of growth in this company, and it's not as popular as some of the other big miners that we've talked about on the channel. Now that's it for today's video. Feel free to leave a comment in the section below. Let me know if you're holding shares of Bitfarms and how you think they stack up to Hut 8 and Hive. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, McNallie Money, feel free to do so. And if you're still watching at this point in time, hopefully you found some value. Make sure you hit the like button on your way out. If you're looking for a platform to actually buy and sell these companies online, I would highly recommend Questrade here in Canada. That's the platform or brokerage that I use. There's a link in the video description below. If you've been sitting on the sidelines, you're waiting to get involved, that's definitely one of the first steps that you need to take. That's it for today, you guys. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.